Hey everyone, my name is Faye. I'm the founder of Wing Canvas, and I am here with Elina. Elina is an instructor here, and she has an amazing story and an animation portfolio to share with you. So without further ado, here's Elina. I'll let you introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, my name is Elina. I am a Sheridan Animation student currently in my second year. So Sheridan College has a really strong animation program that's known around the world. So I'm really grateful to be here and learning something that I'm passionate about. I've loved drawing ever since I was young, and I grew up watching cartoons. So that's what inspired me to go into animation. Now, prior to attending Sheridan College, I was actually a student here at Winged Canvas. So I attended several classes and workshops here, and I regularly attended for life drawing sessions. So yeah, here's a picture of me working on my portfolio just prior to applying to Sheridan, actually. And I was also a student of the Art Mentorship program, so I actually worked closely with Faye, and she helped me develop parts of my portfolio.
Nice.
And
So this was a memory from 2019, right? So can you tell us a little bit about just like your life drawing experience?
yeah, so um, this was a costumed figure drawing session, and I would regularly attend life drawing probably like 1 to 2 times per week, regularly at Winged Canvas. And it was a lot of fun just like getting to draw alongside other people.
Nice. All right. And I have another picture. So
Yeah, so I'm actually now an instructor here at Winged Campus. So it's really cool to be back and working with the same people, but now as a teacher rather than a student. So I started working as a teacher here over the summer, and here you can see a screen cap of me teaching the comics and manga intensive, which I'll actually be teaching again this coming winter.
very cool. All right. So thank you so much, Lena, for giving us a glimpse of your journey so far. It's been amazing to see so much growth and to celebrate your success with you because I know Sheridan Animation is one of the most difficult and competitive programs out there. So I'm so excited to be sharing your expertise and your experience, and hopefully we'll be able to help a lot of other animation students.
Yeah, I hope so too.
All right, so Alina has prepared her entry portfolio to Sheridan. And before we get into the nitty gritty, because we all love to see examples, I think Alina, you said to me before this stream, you said that sometimes you look at so many examples and they can be a little bit overwhelming, right? So, do you have any tips before we get into it?
Absolutely. So I definitely looked at a bunch of portfolio examples before I applied, but at a certain point, you have to tell yourself to stop because you're just going to overwhelm yourself and maybe discourage yourself. Ultimately, your portfolio is your own, so you should embrace how unique it is. So I'm just going to show you my examples as just a little point of reference in case you're really lost.
All right, so let's get into it.
Yeah, so just a little disclaimer right now. I applied to Sheridan Animation in 2020, so all my pieces are according to those requirements. And they update the requirements annually, so just make sure that you're checking for your year. All right, so let's start by looking at my figure drawings. So for the figure drawing section, we were required to submit uh, t- 4 figure drawings. So 2 of them are long poses and 2 of them are short poses. Long meaning anywhere from 5 to 20 minutes, and short meaning anywhere from 1 to 3 minutes. So I ended up submitting 2 long poses that were 10 minutes long and then 5 minutes long, and then these 2 short poses that were 2 minutes long each.
Nice.
Um, Here is the hand drawing section. So for our year, we were specifically asked to draw a hand anticipating to grab a doorknob and then actually carrying out the action.
Great. So, did you draw this from your own hand?
Yeah, these were all based off of my left hand. I was holding it out, trying to draw it from life as much as I could, and my hand actually got really sore. I did take photo references, but mostly I tried to draw from life.
Very nice. So I recognize this type of style. Is that a guideline that they give you, or do you just draw it this way because it was shown this way as an example?
I drew in this style because that's what I saw other portfolio students doing.
Okay.
And I know that they specifically ask for a line drawing.
I see. Okay. The uniqueness of this drawing, though, is actually drawing the structure, right? Drawing the line through the hand and not just a line drawing of a hand, which can feel very flat. So, do you have any tips for actually seeing that type of structure?
Yeah, so it is really important to draw through your forms a bit just to show your understanding. Um, my tip would just to be to draw your hand from different angles as practice so you can actually understand the forms and the different planes.
Nice.
All
Okay.
right, so the next section was the character rotation. And so for the character rotation, we had to design an original character and then rotate it, drawing it from the front view, 3/4 view, side view, and then 3/4 back view. So for this rotation, I designed this granny witch character. My intention was to make her a bit spooky, but ultimately very kind and sweet, just like your typical granny. And so I actually found this part of the portfolio to be one of the most challenging and time consuming. Specifically, I had a lot of trouble with drawing all the little details and keeping them consistent in each view.
Okay. Yeah, this one definitely looks like a challenging one. Let's go to your animation.
Yeah, so the next section of the portfolio was the short animation. And for the short animation, we were required to animate an animation that was 24 to 48 frames long. And we were given a design of a juice box to animate. So I decided to animate it doing this little hop to the side and then a wobble. Now, prior to actually attending Sheridan, I had barely animated at all in my life. So there was definitely a lot of learning that happened as I worked on this.
So, how did you figure it out if you didn't have much experience going into it?
Definitely consulting with my teachers and mentors, looking at resources online. There's a lot of great resources on YouTube. And I had some of the theory of animation beforehand. So, like, I knew about the 12 principles and I tried to apply those however I best could.
Okay. Very nice. I really like how animated the juice box is. Like the exaggeration is really great. And we're going to be taking a look at Elina's score sheet in case you are interested in what her score was.
Yes. All
Okay.
right. So the next section was the storyboard section. So this is actually, at least in my year, it was one of the most heavily weighted portions. So for the storyboard, we were given a character design to use. That would be the possum. And then we were given a prompt, which was, you can't judge a book by its cover. So our task was to create a simple short story and then represent it in 4 panels. So you can see in my storyboard, I show the possum walking into a pet store, meeting this cute kitty cat, and then getting brutally attacked. So you can kind of see how that follows the prompt. And you can also see that within these 4 panels, I tried to show a variety of different shots and angles, but I didn't just choose them randomly or just choose a bunch of angles for the sake of having angles. Rather, I really tried to choose the best shot that would display the action.
Nice. Just curious, because if I was doing this exercise, I would be binging cartoons and trying to really, really study the cinematography, the angles. So, what did you do to inspire yourself to create this little story?
So I feel like for me, I already watched a bunch of cartoons, so like I knew all the tropes, uh, the classic like comedic gags, and I just used that to inspire me.
Great. So I see you have some simple shading on there as well, some gray, some darker grays and some midtones. So is that something that was also required, or did you put that in on your own?
They don't specify it in the requirements like you have to put tones, but just in general for storyboards, it's great to use a little bit of tone just to help with the clarity.
Yes, it definitely helps with the depth. The things that are in the foreground, I can see you've made them darker. The cat is in silhouette, which really feels closer to you, yet your eye is drawn to the possum. So
Yeah.
very nicely done. All right.
All right, so the next section was the perspective line drawing section. And so for this, we were required to draw one interior and then one exterior landscape. So here's my first piece. It's an interior of a factory or lab with a mad scientist kind of character. And then my next piece was a drawing of the coast of an island. Specifically, it's depicting a hiker stumbling upon a secret or hidden village.
Wow, these pieces are both very impressive, first of all, because I'm sure a lot of portfolio reviewers expect to see a room, right? They expect to see you draw your room or you draw your kitchen. So, how did you come up with this idea and did you make it up?
Yeah, so both these ideas I just came up with. And I think I wanted to try to show off a bit how I could use perspective. You can see like there's a bunch of little repetitive details, and those were definitely the most frustrating part. But I think in the end, that's what makes this piece more impressive.
So, these were created digitally or traditionally?
Oh, I worked on both of these traditionally.
Oh, wow.
And
Um,
then just for the second one, like there's a
yeah,
tiny bit of tone, and that was just added digitally afterwards.
I see. So, do they have any preference or rules on whether they accept traditional or digital?
They accept both, and as far as I know, there's no preference.
Okay, interesting. So there's one common thing that I see a lot in perspective drawings, especially when you're working with line, because I know with animation, they want to see your line work. And they want to see how much you can express with line. And I noticed the line quality of this piece is really, really nice. The lines that are closer to you are darker, and you've created depth by using only line, and that's something that is really, really, really nice to see. And if you're a portfolio student watching this, I highly encourage you to use line variety and line weighting to help you tell the story.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. All
Wow.
right. And now we're moving on to the personal artwork section. So for the personal artwork section, we were required to submit 5 pieces of our choosing. So this could really be anything that you feel best represents you as an artist. So let's start. This was my first personal artwork. This was a compilation of a visual development project I was working on. So basically, my project was about this baker who had fire powers, and she could use this to bake a bunch of baked goods. Um, yeah, so basically, what I did was I made a bunch of paintings, sketches, and little explorations, and then I compiled them into this collage. And you can see that some of these drawings aren't perfect, and some of them are really quick. But I wanted to include them to show my natural ideation and exploration process.
Very cool.
And then here is my second personal artwork. This one's actually related to my visual development project. It's a painting done in watercolor. And so between these two pieces, you can kind of see how like sometimes it could be a good strategy to try to jam pack a single personal piece with as much content as possible. But sometimes it's also good to let pieces stand on their own and give them room to breathe so that they can really shine.
Very nice tips.
And then here's my third personal artwork. So this one, for this one, I did a bit more exploration on the character I designed for the rotation. So I gave her a color palette, a name, and then I drew her in a bunch of different poses.
Very interesting that you included a silhouette too, because I know that silhouettes are super important in character development, and we're all so obsessed with putting in details and all these things, but we forget a lot of times to focus on the big picture and the shape design. So
Definitely.
yeah.
And for my fourth personal piece, it's actually two drawings of the same location, but from two different angles. So for this piece, I wanted to display that I could visualize a 3D space and also to solidify the fact that I can draw in perspective. All right, and
Okay.
for
I'm
my
excited about this
final
part.
personal piece, yes. All right, so for my fifth and final personal artwork, I submitted a compilation of my sketchbook. Now, I know that there are other art programs and schools that specifically ask for a sketchbook submission. Now, when I applied to Sheridan, they did not ask me to do this, but I did decide that including parts of my sketchbook would be a really great asset in my application. So what I did was just scan the best of the best pages and then I put them into a PDF. So we start off in my sketchbook with some zoo drawings. So I had the privilege of going to the zoo in person and doing all these sketches of animals. All these sketches were done with an ink pen in person, and then the watercolor wash was added afterwards. So yeah,
Beautiful.
here's some more animal drawings. And then I included some self-portraits in different styles. So you can see I experimented with different media and different styles. We have some pencil crayon and some marker. And then to the right, I did some studies of locations based off of real places I visited. These were done with ink pen and alcohol markers.
Very nice.
Next, I decided to include some character explorations. So here are various character designs, again, in some different styles to try to show the range of my abilities. I also included lots of cafe sketches or subway sketches or just drawings of real people done in real life. More cafe sketches, a bit of the city as well.
I just want to make a comment and say I really like your use of color in your sketchbook, because we see, as someone who looks at a lot of portfolios, we see a lot of pencil drawings, and it's really nice when you can bring your sketchbook to life by just using pops of color, even when it's in the line work.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. I love using different media. And then here is the final spread of my sketchbook. These again were done from life. So what I would do for these more complicated pieces, I would sketch out as much as I could in person and then take a photo for reference later on. And I would use that to help me do the shading and the color.
Nice. So when you say draw things from life as much as you can, why do you think that these programs require you to draw from life instead of from photos? Because we get this question a lot. Why is it that they want you to draw from life?
Well, when you look at a photo, it automatically flattens what you're looking at. And the goal of animation is to make things feel like real life or feel lively, like something you can almost reach out and grab. So the more that you can just try to emulate what you're seeing, the better. And I feel like when you're drawing from life, you can really get the vibe of what you're drawing better. For example, you could even like walk around your subject to try to understand its form, while in a photo, it's all very flat and you're already looking at it through someone else's lens.
Good advice. Ooh, all right. So
Oh,
we have the score sheet section. I'm sure you're all looking forward to this. The score sheet is not all schools have a score sheet, but I know that Sheridan Animation does, and they also share it with you. So it's a very easy way to self-assess. So I'll let you talk about the score sheet. And thank you so much for sharing it with everybody. I know that this can be very personal, so we really, really appreciate it.
yeah, of course. So in the end, my final score was 89%, and the cutoff in my year was 85%. Now, this changes from year to year. So let's just take a quick walkthrough through each section. So for the figure drawing and hand drawing sections, I scored 9 out of 10. Then on the character rotation and short animation, on both of these, I scored 12 out of 15. So that makes these two sections my weakest sections. And looking back, that makes sense because I remember these were the two sections where I had the most struggles. And like I mentioned earlier, I had very little animation experience. So I'm not too surprised by this. And then next, we can look at the storyboarding section. So like I mentioned earlier, this was the most heavily weighted section. I scored 22 out of 25. And then finally, for the perspective line drawing and the personal artwork sections, I scored perfect. And I remember I did enjoy working on these two sections the most as well. So I suppose in the end, looking back, I already had a pretty good idea of my strengths and weaknesses before handing in my portfolio.
Nice. It must have felt so good to get a perfect score, especially on your personal artwork. That must have felt like
Definitely.
like
Getting
a win.
yeah, getting anything perfect just kind of feels like, oh, that's nice. Um, but yeah, so even though I kind of had an idea of my strengths and weaknesses going in, it's definitely great to look at the score sheet afterwards, just for anyone, regardless of whether you get in. It's a great opportunity to improve and learn.
Yes, and also to follow the instructions, right? So many of us get disqualified because we don't read. And I think that's one of the things that we really, really need to pay attention to. So if you know the criteria and you know the success criteria, be sure you triple check everything before you submit, just because you don't want to get disqualified for missing something.
Absolutely.
Okay, so now I'm going to ask you, Elina, if you were to give your past self, I guess back in 2019, if you were to give yourself advice today, knowing what you know, and going to school for 2 years now, what advice would you give to your past self and for all of the students watching this who are preparing a portfolio themselves?
Yeah, so my first piece of advice would be to give yourself enough time to work on your portfolio. So personally, I started working on my Sheridan portfolio in the summer before my application. So this gave me several months to slowly work on it. I started working on it more intensely when the school year started, so around September. And I was fortunate enough to have a very light school course load between September and February. So I was able to focus on my portfolio. But if you know that you have other commitments or a really heavy course load, then you may want to schedule more months in advance to start building your portfolio. Also, in general, like drawing isn't something that you would improve at all at once. So giving yourself more months to prepare in advance allows you to improve more by the end of it, and also gives you time to reflect on each piece and look at it more objectively.
That's great advice. I know that we did a survey recently, and one of the top reasons why people are struggling with portfolios is that that they didn't give themselves enough time. So, to all the procrastinators out there, if you didn't give yourself enough time, what are some of the options that you have?
So I would say if you're starting late and you feel like you're kind of in a pinch, I wouldn't say to give up on this application session. Um, Still work on your portfolio because it's a great learning experience and it's great practice in general, and you might still get in. However, there's also no shame in trying again next year if it doesn't work out. I would say if you try again next year, it might be helpful to take a year off to really focus on working on your portfolio.
Yes, I definitely agree. Taking a gap year could be a really, really good thing. I know a lot of people want to go into it right away. I know I rushed into my university program right away, and I didn't really know what I was getting into. So personally, for me, I would have done more research. But if just like Elina said, if you feel like you didn't give yourself enough time, but you still want to apply this year, treat that as a learning experience. If you get a score sheet, you can actually see what are the things you can, improve on. And so you'll have something tactile for your next round of applications. All right, great. Any other tips?
Yeah, so my second tip would be to do lots of life drawing. So that includes both formal figure drawing sessions and just drawing from life on a regular basis. So, as I mentioned earlier, I did attend life drawing quite frequently, about 1 to 2 times per week. And I think it's really important to do figure drawing at least once a week so that you can build up that muscle memory and just get in the habit of understanding the human form. And it's great to draw from life if you can, but if you can't actually access in-person figure drawing, which I know it can be really difficult, especially now, then I would suggest looking for resources online because there's a lot of great resources there. Now, if you can't do formal figure drawing in person, then I would especially encourage you to do life drawing just in your sketchbook on a day-to-day basis. So that means drawing, the people, places, and things that just surround you on a regular basis.
Yeah, like
Because yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. The examples that you were showing us in your sketchbook, those were all life drawings, and those were not official life drawing sessions, right?
Yeah, exactly. So life drawing just means drawing from real life in general, and it's a great practice to build your visual library and help you decide how you actually want to represent the world.
Yeah, I think that's really important, especially if you're an animator. You need to be drawing things moving. So life drawing is one of the key practices. So drawing at the zoo counts as life drawing. You could draw at the mall. I used to just put on some dark sunglasses and go to the mall and just draw people in the cafeteria, or I would draw on the subway with sunglasses on. And sometimes people would catch me, but even if they did, they would just be curious. So there's lots of ways you can do it. So no excuses for no life drawing.
That's a great tip, actually, to bring sunglasses.
Yeah, so it's not awkward.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. All right, and we have time for one more tip.
All right, so my third piece of advice would be to seek critique, but don't try to implement all of it. So, when you're building your portfolio, you have to be really open to critique because in the end, you're going to be submitting this for people to judge. Um, and so it's great to look for a lot of different sources of critique. You could go to portfolio reviews. I was able to go to one held by Sheridan itself, so that was really great. You could also look to teachers and mentors, other artists, maybe students that are already in the program you're applying to, as well as just friends and family, because sometimes non-artists can provide the most honest and objective opinions of all.
Interesting.
Um, but and while you're collecting all these pieces of critique, it's also important to know that you can't take any piece of advice to heart. Because if you did that, you would end up overwhelming yourself and probably going around in circles only to end up nowhere. I definitely looked for a lot of advice from different mentors and different friends, and a lot of this advice would be conflicting. So what I had to do in the end was decide what I actually want to implement. And that's really important because ultimately your portfolio is your own, so you have to call the shots.
Nice. That's really, really good advice. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, Elina, for that. And so that I hope that you found value in this video, and I hope that seeing some of Elina's examples will really inspire you and kind of motivate you a little bit in the right direction. So the last thing is that you can actually join our Discord community. So we have a growing Discord community full of art nerds like us. So where all the Wing Canvas staff hang out, and we have a specific section for portfolio students. So the invite link will be in the description of this video. So head on over and join the conversation. We definitely help each other out and give each other advice and support. So you are not alone in this. Also, we are planning a live critique. So if you would like to have your portfolio reviewed by our instructors, go ahead and submit your artwork. The link is in the description. Okay, and that's it for today. So thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you next time. Bye.